Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Wake Up Missoula. I'm your host, Scott Ramf. I'm here to usher you into the Missoula weekend and more, talking about some news items first and foremost. The big story from NPR, from former Montana Congressman Ryan Zinke is under investigation trying to sell open space public lands to build commercially in Whitefish, Montana. NPR broke the report from the U.S. Office of the Interior, and this is what the report said. We concluded that Secretary Zinke did not comply with his duty of candor when he knowingly provided incorrect, incomplete, and misleading answers to the DAEO on July 2018 about his continued involvement with the foundation and the 95 Caro project. We also found that Secretary Zinke violated the standards of ethical conduct when he misused his official position to direct his subordinates to perform activities that were not related to the performance of their official duties during normal duty hours. The report was released Wednesday, and NPR had the full story with the full link from the Office of the Interior. Zinke left his position of the Department of Interior in late of 2018, serving for 2 years amid mounting misconduct allegations. Now the Republican is running to return to Congress in the state of Montana as we are opening up for a secondary congressional seat with the rezoning. And speaking of rezoning, one of the big stories that are happening as well is that we're trying to redistrict for the Public Service Commission. Gianforte started a special session, but warns that he wanted the special session to be only used for PSC. So the state of Montana, they meet bi-yearly, so the whole, no, not bi-yearly, but every 2 years. And part of this is just to save money, and there's a lot of times Montana is a fairly low populated state, and there's not a lot of need for it as much as the legislature has done in the past. This particular session is done because the PSC is looking to redistrict, and it needs to have lines drawn and boundaries drawn, and it hasn't been done in quite a while now. Sorry, I'm noticing some technical difficulties, so I don't know how long I might be on the air, but I'm noticing some glitches here and there, so it might just be the camera connection. But at the root of this push for litigation filed in federal court in December, alleging the dramatic population differences between the 5 PSC districts violated the U.S. Constitution's one person, one vote principle. And of course, the ruling last month, the U.S. District Court for the state of Montana signaled it agreed with this analysis, and therefore the Montana state legislature has to put into these boundaries to equally distribute the PSC districts. And for those of you know, public service commissions are the ones that regulate utilities in the state of Montana. Without them, a lot of times you'd have private utilities basically cranking up the rates on your water bills and stuff like that. Not that they're any better right now than they have been. But regardless of that, this is just a committee that's meant to prevent any of that and to make sure that the public, the utilities are running for the public's good. So anyways, the Public Service Commission regulates the utilities in Montana, unlike legislature and congressional districts. The shape and makeup of the PSC districts is up to the legislature. So population disparities between some districts have grown to more than 50,000 people. There's a 50,000 people difference between some of these areas, and so they want to shrink this gap to about 3,100 residents. Lawmakers, leaderships, and the governor's office have been meeting in recent weeks in search of an agreement on how to proceed with a special session, something that can happen a few different ways. The easiest through most restrictive is through governor's office. Anything else requires a majority of legislatures and possibly lengthy polling process. The line for Governor Gianforte has fairly been consistent. He'd consider assembling the legislature in a special session if there's a unity behind the proposed redrawn of the map and if lawmakers limit the purview of the session of the PSC matter. So anyways, he reiterated those thoughts in a letter shared with the GOP lawmakers on Tuesday. And so far, this is kind of like a process that's moving forward, looking to see the special session, but at the same time, make it fairly restrictive to be just drawing these line maps and not doing any kind of other legislature in the state of Montana. So that's what's happening in Montana. Let's see here. Oh yeah. This is kind of another story, but this is kind of a health issue in the state of Montana, as well as that the richest mountain in Montana is also home to the most popular Superfund site. Butte, Montana, has released a story about those Moscow mules that may be more dangerous than you think. So it turns out the longer that the drink is out, the copper in the mugs became more higher levels of copper that usually would oxidize and enhance some of the flavors of your Moscow mules. However, the FDA's food code advised against food or drink with a pH level of less than than 6.0, which are more acidic. From coming into contact with copper, there was a pH of Moscow mules reached as low as 2.7 pH value. Before you throw your copper mugs out, most of those levels happen after 27 minutes of being left alone, and it also measures that you have to drink 30 of these post 27-minute drinks to get any kind of reaction from the copper overall. So they just discovered this mitigation. You know, you don't have to worry about it. I mean, you'd have to drink quite a bit just to kind of get the copper poisoning. But the copper is affected by the nature of the drink, which is, you know, acidic by nature with the ginger beer, lime juice, and vodka. However, this discovery should only inform and not dissuade folks from enjoying the cooler than cool drink. In Montana, as well, we've been trying to figure out redistricting for public commission. We also here in America are worried, not so much about the copper drinks, but kind of like the bigger story that's happening in the East. And I'm talking about Russia, baby, and America's involvement. They are pretty much expecting an invasion any minute. Like, there's this ongoing thing. There's always a lot of back and forth. A lot of news are saying one thing or another. And then there's news even happening in Ukraine, who's just like, yeah, you guys are kind of like escalating the situation, and then also Ukraine's like, yeah, but Russia's also not leaving. So there's just a lot of back and forth. You know, one of the things is that Monday the U.S. government told all U.S. citizens in Ukraine to get out because the U.S. will not rescue them. Part of this is that they'd have to find other means to get out. A week or so, the press secretary mentioned that the U.S. strongly encouraged U.S. officials and government emissaries to leave the country, but now they suggest that U.S.-born living in Ukraine will have to find their own means to leave while they can. Joe Biden and Vladimir Putin spoke lengthy on Saturday in hopes to stop increasing troops' presence on the Ukraine border. However, Russia began allegedly, so the news happened, there's a lot of fluid news going on. They said that they were moving troops on Tuesday, but then they confirmed it on Wednesday that they added more than 7,000 troops as of Wednesday, marking the overall Russian troops at about 150,000 troops are the Ukraine border, according to U.S. reports, but although they have been releasing overhead aerial shots of some of the tech and some of the stuff, anti-tanks, helicopters and stuff like that. The news is constantly changing. And I've heard a lot, like even just reading my notes, it's kind of like like a lot of this, like I feel like I'm reading this like way too far into the past because there's constant things moving and so far. But so far, many European countries depend on a lot of the raw material, natural gas, oil, and all of that. 40% of Europe takes it from Russia. And so they got the land, but invading other countries tends to show the world more about the state of your own country. For what history has always said, invading another country is very simply to get more resources. Ukraine is very, I think, from what I've heard and just some of the history, of course it used to be part of the USSR, maybe it's something to do with vanity, or perhaps, there's just a lot of different things in the case. But I think the one clear thing is that the fact that Vladimir Putin has a $1.3 billion mansion, going big seems to be one of the motivators of that one. So I'm speculating at this point, but the Ukraine in NATO excuse we'll never know the true motivations of a man who is dangerously smart as Vladimir Putin. Okay, so that's some of the crazy stuff that are going on here as well, but the Olympics are happening, just so you guys know, and one of the biggest stories is a Russia figure skater who was basically banned from competing, but then they said that you can compete, but you can't walk. So this is the story of, I believe, let's see, I have to go back through my notes again. The Russia-born skater Kamila Vavela, sorry if I'm butchering that name, was tested before Christmas, and just recently they found a banned chemical used for trimenzazidine. It works by increasing blood flow to the heart and limiting rapid swings in blood pressure, maybe to kind of help regulate and mellow you out, but also at the same time doesn't restrict you. The drug is not approved for use in the United States, and therefore the Olympic Committee had this on their list of banned substances, and therefore they basically banned her straightforward. So the biggest news from this story is that the Olympic Committee will allow her to compete, and since she was 15, like they started building the narrative of how she's always wanted to skate and do all that stuff. So the Olympic Committee showed her a lot of mercy. They say, hey, you're a minor. It's only a big deal if you're 16 and over and doping, but in case, since you're just under the cutoff, they've shown some leniency. They're allowing her to compete. But unfortunately, after the fact that she competed, the international pressure definitely got to her, and as a result, As if being Russian wasn't bad enough, her competing was an exhibitionary at best. So, and then just news this morning broke that she just did she caved to the national pressure, and even her own team gave her the cold shoulder after her initial competition. So, that's kind of what's happening in the news and all the world. I don't have any good note to kind of leave you guys on, but upcoming, just kind of like I have a clip for you guys. It's an art clip. You guys should totally check this art exhibit happening at the Missoula Art Museum. It's beautiful. It's a collaboration by a bunch of people, and there's a lot of beautiful stuff. I'll show you in the clip, but I also have a promo for our Spring Flicks. I just wanted to basically talk a little bit more about that. Spring Flicks is a kind of like a supplemental school time frame activities-based program here at MCAT, geared towards kids 8 to 14, and it is to kind of supplement the school day, while some of the parents who can't get a vacation during spring break can enjoy it here at MCAT, can bring their kids, have them here while they are stuck at work, that kind of stuff. So without further ado, here is the video with the promo, and then when I come back, I'm going to talk about some movies that are coming out this weekend.
And I just want to...
Oh, I got the wrong video. Hold on a second.
You heard of Spring Flicks? This is Media Camp. You can make movies. Hey, don't hang up. This is Media Camp. Spring Flicks, this March 21st through the 25th.
While spring break lets your kids out, you can drop them off here at MCAT. From 10 to 3, your kid gets to use many of our resources to create and share their own stories. For kids age 8 to 14, a fun break from their spring break. Spring Flicks. Hey guys, welcome back. Let's talk. Let's get this a little quieter. Hey guys, let's. Geez, I'm just not happy with my audio today. All right, guys, let's kick things off. We're going to be talking a little bit about some movies that are coming out this weekend. It's time for Pre-Critic, where I prejudge a movie based on absolutely nothing but my pre-biases towards these movies. We're kicking things off with a Tom Holland movie. You might think of this as a kind of like a a start of mini films that Tom Holland might be doing that is not Spider-Man centric. So other than that, most people would be like, pass. Anyways, from the popular video game franchise about Indiana Jones ripoff, Nathan Drake, Uncharted follows Tom Holland's character as the titular character, as yet another attempt at making a video game based on a beloved franchise about a treasure hunter on the quest to find and help his brother, family, best friend, mentor person. Enjoy yet another attempt to bring an adventure to the big screen. Enjoy a series of stunts done in front of a green screen and plenty of death-defying stunts and stuff. The bad guy was really working with the good guys, and the most double crosses happen just as the adventure is about to achieve the victory. But most likely the treasure will not be something anyone gets physically in the end, but in their hearts. There's always something like that. And then there's some kind of history lesson of Blackbeard or some pirate ships lost at sea or whatever. Hey, there's 2 pirate ships in the trailer. Like, I'm assuming they're high of trying to find, Goonies. There's going to probably be a lot of Goonies references in this one, just because, it's like ships in a under cavern and cave and they get helicoptered out. But other than that, that's what you can kind of expect from it. Usually, like in those heist movies, it's always like they get the hero struggles to the very end just for the bad guys to, we've been here the whole time. Guns pointed, and it's like, well, I give up. Oh, there's more things happening besides just the bad guys, and then I'm going to use this opportunity to defeat the bad guys, but then end up losing the treasure. Or did I? There's your movie, 100%. Up next, we have a mountain climbing may sound stupid, but a movie about it always has the risk of falling or being trapped in terms of plot points. The Ledge is yet another one of those movies where fear of heights is the antagonist, and the rest of the people are just there to drop like flies. Sorry, that was probably the wrong wording, but there are a lot of killers who use gravity as their machete knife axe. Every movie has a gimmick, and this one is about climbing, and every actually it feels like more like every 15 years there has to be like a mountain climbing movie that has to do with climbing, but then they have to add in some kind of heist element to there, and then they have Sylvester Stallone ripoff called The Ledge. Up next, we got a Channing Tatum. Channing Tatum, I don't know why I said it like that, but he's in a movie called Dog. So a lot of people are probably going to see it, definitely the dog lovers. So cat lovers, stay home. It's about an ex-Marine dog and a human ex-Marine trying to navigate the U.S. countryside while turner and hooching their way through it. Anyways, the human is the absolute worst, and only by having the dog will make him likable, like most men. Will his character arc promise be fulfilled? May remind me that the dog does not talk, so enjoy the guy talking to himself. But since there's a dog, less crazy. I'm assuming the dog gets this guy in trouble. Dog almost dies, but by the soldier boy becoming a soldier man, can he truly attain world peace or something like that? Here's a speed round. The Cursed, a 19th century werewolf about a rural France, placed in rural France, and a series of disappearances have a town folks crying werewolf, and I'm assuming that the wolf man, the main character, fails in saving the werewolf kid and becomes a werewolf of himself, traveling to the next country to continue the pain. Up next, yes, we got a Chartlow Copley is in Lincoln, Montana. No, and he's also a domestic terrorist who was involved with a series of pipe bombs that rattled the U.S. Watched this movie about Ted Kaczynski, and the only way he was ever caught was because of his brother. So it's a very interesting story, and a lot of people in Montana will be heavily invested in this as well. Up next, we got The Ghost of Borley Rectory. So the U.S. has haunted house. England, Europe, they have haunted castles. Go big or home, right? That sounds more fun than you can enjoy this long-winded title about ghost hunters who probably never seen a ghost until now, and then they can't prove it after a nightmare thriller escape. So those are the movies that are coming out this weekend, and you guys can either enjoy it or skip them completely, or never even hear about them, or just forget everything I just said right now. All right, moving on, we have a brand new dub and stuff for you guys, and it features All the Kind Strangers, another horror film from back in 1974.
Hey, Mama, I brought this man over from the street. He's like a one of those hobo type people. I was hoping that we could baby murder him and do all sorts of weird things.
She's been talking like this all day. I hope she's joking.
Man,
Is this some kind of setup?
how about that weather?
Wait,
Yeah, it's lightning and stuff. My favorite color's blue. I'm 5'5".
Uh-huh.
and I have 3 children, and
Okay.
they're the love of my lives. And if you can understand that, maybe we could,
Oh, is this some kind of setup? Are you trying to date me?
um, well, yes, of course. Yeah, never mind. It's stupid. Forget what I said. Yeah. You can stay the night, and there's laundry. I can do your laundry, and I can do all
Um,
sorts of things.
I think your roof is leaking. Do you mind if I go check it out, maybe?
What? Are you some kind of moron? There's thunder outside. You might get struck by. Anyways, if you want to do it, you can do it when the weather clears out. Oh, I just love my children. They're the center of my world, after all, and I would never want anything bad to happen to them. Yeah, but I digress.
Hey, Mama, you better not be planning to overthrow us again. Oh, it's the hobo. Nice to see ya. How you doing? You hungry or something?
Now's not a good time, Billy Job. Job Billy.
Listen, I just need to shelter down for a while until the storm clears out. Is that okay with you? I'll be out as soon as possible. You don't have to worry about me much longer. I promise you, it's no big deal. I'll be out of your hair in no time. You can stay. Yeah, you can stay. We can play Settlers of Catan. Huh, I never knew that you guys would be into that kind of game. After all, it is a very complicated game that delves in math and very, high statistics and probabilities. You're just stereotyping. Don't you sass us. We know a lot of things. Please excuse my brother's manners. He knows not of what he thinks or what he says. We are quite bad at Settlers of Catan. Perhaps you could teach us? Okay. Come with us. So we're gonna kill him as soon as we take him out into the other room? We're gonna kill him when he least expects it. What are you guys talking about? Nothing.
Hey guys, welcome back. Let's talk about some city council stuff. The city, in terms of city council, there wasn't really much going on there, but I have a lot of planning board. So, one of the things that also happens this week as well is Valentine's Day. Happy Valentine's Day for those of you out there. It was happening on Monday during the city council meeting as well. While Valentine's is a day to celebrate love and heavy commercialism. Every year, the city reads a proclamation reflecting the Missing and Murdered Indigenous Peoples Day, where every year, indigenous populations of North America are 10 times more likely to get murdered or go missing than the national average. Since 2018, the state of Montana launched a Missing and Murdered Indigenous list to help local law enforcement cooperate with the tribal police in efforts to bring justice to those missing and murdered indigenous folk. Beth Wilson, 350 Montana member, during public comment, talked about the efforts that the city has been doing in terms of promoting climate action for climate change.
And I just want to thank you very much for all the work on the 100% clean energy. And we are just, members are just trying to call in as often as we can and just remind you of how important this is and how much we appreciate all your good work. And I would just say that climate change is so totally interrelated to every other issue that you guys deal with, whether it's housing, poverty, whatever it is. And I think most of you know that, but we just want to keep the focus on the 100% clean energy as much as we can.
Okay. And so 350 Montana is a nonprofit based around Montana for the purpose of climate smart actions and lobbying to get better energy kind of deal. But anyways, Missoula has a plan for zero emissions by 2050. Atizia Romero, someone in the public comment, really advocated for the winter shelter in Missoula, spoke about Mother Nature in her speech.
We are showered every day with the gifts of the earth, gifts we have neither earned nor paid for. Air to breathe, nurturing rain, black soil, berries and honeybees. The tree that became this page. A bag of rice, an exuberance of a field of goldenrod and asters at full bloom. So I guess I just want to say that as we move forward as a community throughout the year, I want us to continue to be creative and to be imaginative with every decision that we make.
All right, so I pose you this final question. Nature, are we living in it or with it? Anyways, it's always nice to hear some familiar voices in public comment. And speaking of zero emissions, the city wanted to pass an ordinance on capping energy consumption of cannabis growing operations. They moved forward on that. And of course, however, before they could actually move forward, some of the specs and some of the things that the city of Missoula is required to do. Marty Rabine, the city clerk, was on vacation and caught something the city was doing and had to pull on the reins a bit. And this is what she had to say in terms of how the city was conducting their agendas.
Is it council's intent to conduct first reading on this ordinance this evening? That should be implicitly stated in the motion to set the public hearing and do first reading. Otherwise, I would tell staff that they need to bring this back and so it can have first reading because there is nothing here that implicitly says that you are setting a public hearing and doing first reading and preliminarily adopting the ordinance, which is a requirement of law in order to adopt an ordinance.
Let me go to Jordan, chair of LUP. And
Thanks, Gwen, and thanks, Marty, for pointing that out. I think we could remove the public hearing and set that later. They're planning to do some work and come back to us in April, so we could set the public hearing. I believe what they had intended to do was bring a pre-public hearing draft before LUP. So maybe there is no public hearing draft at this point. So maybe we could just direct them to continue work and then come back and set a public hearing later.
I think that's a good course of action. You can't hold a reading on something that isn't drafted.
Okay. So, yeah, so, the thing about this is you can go to these community meetings, you can draft an ordinance, do all that stuff, but you need to also have the time put into place for everyone to know about that particular ordinance. And part of the first reading is to basically set the wheels in motion so all city council members can be informed and then they can make the vote. Because a lot of times, most of the city council members aren't on every single committee, and so you have to make sure that everyone is well informed before any kind of thing, which is why they have first readings. And heck, even public hearings are put further down the list. So you hear them talk about rezoning and stuff for like weeks at a time, and I bring out there's some things I don't even bring up, but those are one of the things that before they actually have a final vote on something, they actually have to have something that's proposed. For quite some time. So the rest of the meeting reflected on a couple of resolutions I mentioned last Friday, which would get rid of the Betty's Fund. So Betty's Fund was a goodwill local fund that would encourage Missoulians to put money into for those who have a fixed income and who are being, as the quote goes, taxed out of their home, and to help alleviate that. And so far, most of this Betty's Fund has been geared towards, actually nobody's donated to the Betty's Fund. Most people, they repealed it. It was kind of like a very disappointing how it ended up becoming, but in terms of exactly I guess the whole idea was just like it sounded good on paper, but it just didn't sound good in practice. And so far, if you are looking it is disappointing, but you can always go to montana.gov for any kind of tax breaks for anybody who if you can qualify pretty easily if you are a certain age. So if you're 55 and over, you might be able to qualify for certain tax exemptions, especially if you're a retired folk as well looking to get some tax breaks. But at the same time, it's like they're expecting you to go online and get a hold of the government representative, so which is even harder. So that in itself can somewhat be difficult as well. But then again, like one of the things is that the city of Missoula has been doing is trying to move people over to the state of Montana to help alleviate some of those taxes. So another big move was the final approval of the federal post office. So this whole idea is to create the design standards for how the current Missoula Federal Post Office is going to be as soon as they hand over ownership in 2024. And so far the city is putting about $300,000 along with the county's $300,000 into the interlocal agreement to come up with the design standards of exactly how they're going to renovating this federal post office building. I've been talking about it. I'm going to keep talking about it some more, but it seems like it's going to be a long process before even the city of Missoula actually moves into the building, because they can't even actually do any kind of process in the building until 2024. All right, so however, One of the things that I also want to talk about was the planning board. So the planning board, they're talking about rezoning and redistricting. There's just a lot of things happening, and part of the planning board is trying to figure out the best way to not necessarily deter development, but point development in the right direction. And that was kind of like the whole point of the planning board. So at the end of the city council meeting, they spoke on zoning, and the city wanted to make it clear that the county is doing a major zoning update for the entire Missoula County and will be reflecting on March 1st Missoula Consolidated Planning Board meeting. And so this is kind of given the background. This is the last planning board meeting. Andrew Hugemeyer, Community and Planning Services, gave the presentation, reflects how Missoula plans to plan.
And housing obviously being one, sustainability is another one, ag is one. I mean, we kind of hit on most of the big issues in that last presentation. They're big problems, big issues, they need big solutions. Zoning is just one tool in the toolbox to try to adjust these. So here's what we'll kind of walk through: housing, local ag, resource protection, and clean energy. These are the opportunities that we have within the code. Some of the issues that we're facing in the community that we have opportunities to try to address.
Okay, so one of the big things is they want to move forward with, like how they're going to move, like exactly how they're going to move forward. And most of this is also a reflection of how the growth policy is within the county and the city of Missoula. Let's see. Another big thing is that the challenges the planning board faces are very clear. They cannot stop development, but they can aim it towards certain areas. And so Andrew addresses some of the constraints that the planning board actually has.
Our proposed zoning code is an implementation of that 2019 land use element. I mean, there is a direct correlation between these two documents. Within that land use element, which is a component of our growth policy, is a land use map. I just wanted to specifically talk about the role between the land use map and the zoning map. The land use map is our vision. It's our description of future conditions. It's perhaps a 20-year outcome, development outcome in the community, where we want growth to go and where we want our resources to be protected.
Okay, and so far this has been kind of something that hasn't been updated in decades, and so the county planning board is looking to move forward on that. This is a reactionary, and they have very little say or disagreement with master plans overall. This can be used to protect open land, ag land, and potential for fusing housing. However, with pressures of housing getting higher and higher, plans alter and try to address those housing concerns, but at the same time, Andrew also addresses capacity and how not to get carried away.
The proposed code is going to require more capacity as we've designed it today, but we've tried to limit that necessary need for capacity as much as we can. But there are some really important parts of this code that demand that we add the capacity. The commissioners are well aware of this, and as the code gets closer to adoption, we're very hopeful that the capacity that's necessary to implement the code is put in place. But, however, we are trying to keep the code realistic in terms of our capacity to be able to implement it.
Okay, and so one of the major things that I'm definitely noticing, definitely from the Consolidated Planning Board, I suggest you guys check it out as well to have a little bit more information. But the Planning Board adheres to the county, and the county, like all the communities, must follow state law. You might be asking yourself, planning board, what's the point? The point of planning board is, hey, imagine if the state of Montana is like, oh yeah, these counties, they're like, we're not going to, like, the planning board is to help rezone in district and kind of deal with the existing map as it follows. And so one of the big things is I always like to bring up an example is the 100-year floodplain. So the whole idea is like this, hey, the need for housing outweighed the 100-year floodplain. And the 100-year floodplain is, there's a chance that you'll be flooded. And do you want to take that risk or not? And that's why they mitigate some of the lower pricing for some of those houses, maybe have higher insurance rates, which basically the whole idea behind the 100-year floodplain is it gives you a 1 in 5 chance of flooding within 20 years of your mortgage. Zoning is the point in which we build on sites that have been surveyed and studied for residential. And in terms of like the state and the state using the state, it's like, oh yeah, the state, you know, they meet every 2 years. Like they're not gonna be interested in like dividing up zoning within county. So which is why we have these boards, committees and other things to help do that for us. And so so part of this is to be surveyed and studied for residential, commercial and or industrial use. And also the zoning would basically be like, hey, there's amenities you can hook up to. This site would be much better. Otherwise you'd have to pay a little bit extra to hook into the sewer in city, or even heck, like God forbid, a septic tank. Towns can be built, but without the proper tools like historical landslides, flooding, and plenty other things to worry about living in Montana, other than the increasing fire seasons. So I'm not going to get too much into this, but let's get back to Andrew, who brings us back to reality. So this is what he had to say.
We need to recognize, you know, why we might have some really lofty ambitions and really lofty goals here in Missoula, that Missoula doesn't set the enabling statutes for zoning. The state does. And we know from this last legislative session that this legislature has no problem with taking away rights because we did something to all communities in Montana, because we did something here in Missoula. They did that with land use statutes in this last session. So we need to be careful and cognizant that that we have to be aware of what the state politics are. We don't want to overstep bounds and end up getting perhaps, you know, something as drastic as the ability for counties to have zoning taken away. And that sounds rash, but there were 3 bills this last session that tried to eliminate the county's ability to have zoning, period.
All right, so there you go. There's some scary information going on right there, but I mean, most of those boards are in place just to kind of help navigate development. But at this point, it's like you're going to have all these zoning, and then when you have people building right there, they'd be like, hey, you know, like you didn't really kind of give us the heads up on this property that you let us develop, and now we're kind of flooded and we're kind of screwed. And they're just like, hey, you know, it's, you know, the state records, you know, you can look at all the records yourself, all that stuff. But, you know, planning board would have been good in terms of like, oh, we're familiar with this site. We work on the site. We're on this board because we help development develop. And we're like, hey, well, you know, this site is not that good to develop because there's some like the soil, the root, the clay, it's not as level, and you need to dig down deep enough to build a stronger foundation just to build on the building, which offsets the cost $50,000 to $100,000 more for your development. And so yeah, there's things where that's one of the positives is having a board on there, but then some of the negatives is like it's they're not using this to leverage development, they're just aiming development in the right direction. So right now the needs are housing, but for the planning board, it's not the main focus right now. So this is what Andrew continued saying.
We're not focused on an affordable housing solution, like, you know, trying to meet certain AMI for rentals or home buyers that you would in a typical housing strategy. We're just trying to enable housing of all types, any price point within the zoning code. So this is not the county affordable housing strategy. It is an implementation of our county affordable housing strategy. Our county affordable housing strategy identifies zoning and reducing barriers within zoning to try to get more housing supply on the market.
Okay. And so that does it for my presentation, just kind of a little bit of background. You know, they cannot require affordable housing by the developer, and zoning is a tool to help increase housing in general and not an affordable housing solution. Incentives are, you know, townhouse exemption districts, you know, build a bunch of those kind of like high density housing developments, which has been very popular among developers looking to get through some red tape. But overall, the meeting touches based on what the planning board does, but also emphasizing that planning board is a tool for creating opportunities for housing and not leveraging it. And of course, for more information, you can go to the City of Missoula's website at ci.missoula.mt.us. The City of Missoula's website is a great source for anybody looking to get information about permits, filling in potholes, just a lot of various things here as well, and even getting involved with politics. A great way is that they have volunteer opportunities through the website that you can get involved with, and they're a good way to posture yourself within the council members and just kind of working your way up into politics. I mean, that's like the best way of doing it, is to get involved. And so you can get involved by ci.missoula.mt.us. They spoke a lot of time on this. Well, of course, like during that meeting, they didn't only talk about their updated planning zoning board, the updated zoning for the county, but they also talked about Orchard Homes, which they're going to be developing on a narrow piece of site, and there was a lot of back and forth with that. I suggest you guys check that out. I didn't want to talk about that because then I would have been talking about it for pretty much for the next 10-15 minutes, but it's definitely a very kind of interesting issue as you're trying to develop a fairly large kind of like a large lot, but they're trying to build like a higher density area, especially near residential neighborhoods in the Orchard Homes. And they have been outspoken about a lot of development in that particular area, because that area is kind of like borderline between like city and county as we're getting further and further out into county area. Because when it's like Orchard Homes is Reserve and 3rd Street, which is located further, like that's basically Reserve used to be like kind of like the line between city and county, but then a couple blocks in, it still counts as city. And so it's getting fairly ridiculous in terms of like just like how the city of Missoula has expanded. It's definitely an interesting kind of like a crescent moon, and the only area that seems to be kind of like still technically county within Missoula, city of Missoula, tends to be more of the Target Range kind of neighborhood. Orchard Homes is kind of starting to feel the impact of a growing city of Missoula, because they're pretty darn close to the Reserve Street, hence the city boundaries and all that stuff. So it's interesting. I suggest you guys check this out, because if they're going to do some rezoning, you're going to be seeing a lot of those kind of like how the county and city of Missoula will start trying to blend on certain those border ward areas. So Missoula's been growing. It's ridiculous. Just look at the last couple years. Last year, Airport Boulevard got into the fray of the city of Missoula. I can talk about this forever, and I am. So I'm going to stop right here. And up next, we have a very special video for you guys. I was lucky and fortunate enough to get one of Rowan Lemus, who is the sketch artist popularly known here at MCAT and hopefully the internet for the Dude I Just Drew guy. He's a very talented sketch artist, and we were able to get a chance to exhibit some of his work over at a local business called Lake Missoula Tea Company. And I suggest you guys check out some of his work by going to Know War Arts with the Z through Instagram. So without further ado, here is the premiere of a highlighted video of his time at Lake Missoula Tea Company. And when I come back, we're going to talk about some events.
Those are completely different. One looks like a very unfortunate sewer creature, and one looks like a monkey king.
I say take a break and do another challenge. This was too fun.
Another
one.
It doesn't even look like a monkey.
This is impromptu Dude I Just Drew.
This is an impromptu do another one.
Hello everybody, I'm Rowan Lemus. I'm doing an art installation in Missoula Brewing Company.
All right, Rowan, did a pretty good job, but I got another challenge for you.
What is it?
Oh yeah. On the cup. I definitely like the way that you draw clouds. It's like, is it a cloud or is it a bush?
Oh, yeah.
It's both.
Right. Both of them.
Depends what you're smoking.
Yeah, it depends. Plow mountains. So always surrounded by mountains. Do mammoths have big ears?
Honestly, you could be the next Bob Ross.
Could happen. There it is, dude.
Oh, whoa. The arm just made like 1,000,000 times bigger, for sure.
Yeah, this is what we call foreshortening to make sure that when something's
Like coming towards you.
Yeah, come towards
Oh, it's coming towards you.
My hand's not this big. The hand's
Forced
bigger.
perspective.
Yeah, there's forced perspective in there too.
Here's the art. But here's
the artist doing it.
arting. He's arting in this place. You can hear him art.
You can hear me and my thoughts. There we go.
Yeah.
Look at that. Wait, I want to add some hatching here. There we go.
Nice.
Go on YouTube.
Yeah. Over, God, how many? 30 episodes so far? And it's just like a drawing competition show where two people have 5 minutes to draw against each other, and it's a blind draw. It's kind of like Pictionary, but you already know what you're drawing, and everyone's just kind of talking trash.
You guys already have like a little following going on?
Yeah, quite a bit, but we're really bad about just advertising ourselves.
Advertising it though.
Literally, my favorite thing to do to you is just like backseat drawing. Backseat drawing. That's basically exactly what we do with our show. Is like we constantly just talk trash while the person's drawing.
We're just like, what's that supposed to be?
Yeah.
Just like, hold on a second, please.
It's a point.
Nice.
It's artistic.
Yes.
It's artistic. There we go.
So you should have made her lick her own foot.
Oh no! Okay, let me just fix that right now. Two people with their heads connected, functionally. They have learned to live together. How does that work?
How could that be?
That's a familiar name.
Oh, I think he literally...
Oh my God, the guys with their body's so tiny, and then
That's how it's
the
functional.
hand is huge.
They look very functional. Like,
Aha! I'm a burden.
Did you say I'm a burden?
I'm a burden.
All right, now all we need to do is come up with a topic, and I don't think I should do it, just because I'm the one that...
How about the Monkey King? Y'all know Son Goku, the Monkey King?
he's just gonna get a mustache and a beard. Those are completely different. One looks like a very unfortunate sewer creature, and one looks like a monkey king.
I say take a break and do another challenge. This was too fun.
Another
It doesn't even
Ooh.
look like a monkey.
This is impromptu, dude. It's
Yeah,
true.
this is an impromptu. Do another one.
I want to see birds hanging out around a tree on a hill.
All right.
And go.
This bird's like, yo, I'm really dumb.
I'm Woodstock. We're
I don't know what I'm
Snoopy.
doing here. We're stupid. Uh-oh. I made my drawing too simplistic, and now...
What do you mean? It's like a little tiny bird is challenging the raven or the crow.
He's just saying squonk. Squonk. Both drew two birds. One is happy, one is sad.
One is happy and one is not so happy.
Oh wait, maybe they're both kind of unhappy.
Hey, snake person, what he's doing is up to you. And go.
Maybe I'll stick with the artless theme. Ooh,
Imagine if you had snackney. It's like snake acne.
That would suck.
But instead of acne, it's like little snake heads on your face.
Oh!
Maybe it should be like weird little snaky dudes. Oh no, it looks like sperm.
I know.
I wasn't thinking that.
Nobody else was thinking that. Any drawing you see on my Instagram, this is what I'm usually doing before.
Yeah, because it's so much easier to like give it.
What's your Instagram, Rowan?
It's nowhere on ours, dude.
What about you?
Mine is modeling art, so like it has my paintings, but it also has like the actual doodles. I kind of,
Modeling.art.
yeah, so I go back and forth on that stuff.
He looks so displeased. He's like,
no. He's like, oh, please.
Why do
You're doing all the hands.
Handy.
Hands.
Handy. He's very handy.
All right.
And they're like, here's Chainsaw Man.
I like this. I really like what you do with a lot of the designs for like comic book characters. They're very beefy,
Big.
very strong.
A lot of that is like
Yeah, this will be the last one. Yeah, the last challenge.
What is it?
Oh, how about like since it's international cups over at Clay Studio Missoula, maybe make a unique design, like an alternate universe teacup.
like how you just a teacup and
Alternate universe teacup. Think about whatever you want to do.
In the future, you have two of these boys. Two of these boys.
In the future, or maybe in the past.
Wow, wow, what have I done? I'm not even on drugs.
Oh, his third eye has expanded.
Wow. This great.
It's like a milk carton come to life with a little bit of weird tentacles in there and fingers.
Up with it. It was fun. That's what I gotta say. To come out, draw. To come out, draw. It was okay. All right. That's nice.
Where can people find more information about you? Who said that?
Yeah, who did? You can find me on nowhere.arts on Instagram and nowhere with an exclamation mark on Twitter. And you can also check out my comic if you want. It's on shrinecomics.com called Punch Shrine.
And I am modeling art, so that's what I am.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah. Have a good one.
Ah, the good times had by all. Let's kick things off. Hey, that's pretty much it for that. I'm going to talk a little bit about events that are happening in and around the city of Missoula. So, hey, if you're interested in doing some library stuff, there's a lot of events here happening at the library. Kicking things off is Tiny Tales and Story Time for kids. These are for young kids, just below 3, and then they have Story Time for older kids up to 7. Part of this is just getting kids engaged with learning and reading and with their local library. And then also what's happening today, as well as starting at noon, they have Yarns and Watercolor. If you want to pick up a new skill or continue working on a couple projects, it's a great way for you to kind of stitch and kind of hang out with some friends and folks about arts and stuff as well. And this afternoon, MCAT also hosts a editing tutorial for Adobe programs and also has our Adobe Photoshop at 4 p.m. And it's a great way to improve or capitalize or get an intro into Photoshop for those of you, or if you have a project that you're working on right now, you get hands-on help with our resident trainer, Aspen. All right, so there's always a couple events happening as well, but the University of Montana is doing a tax preparation assistance. They're doing this pretty much well until March. It's a great way for you to jump in, and if you make less than $660,000 a year, they'll be able to help you. It's the Gallagher Business Building at the University of Montana. They're pretty much most days, weekends, and more at 8:30 a.m. most mornings. You can look at more information by going to MissoulaEvents.net. Continuing pickleball indoor. Pickleball is a very popular sport, very low. It's not too active where you're stressing yourself out, but it's active enough to encourage play. Rules and strategies will be reviewed and you will have plenty of time to practice and play in each class. It's at the Lifelong Learning Center. They do these lessons consistently, weekly, and stuff like that. But I also wanted to mention the Lifelong Learning Center is a great way for you to get a GED, get some continuing education, and just test the waters of a potential college degree if you are going back to school as a non-traditional student. And just it helps, kind of dust off some of the old cobwebs and all that stuff. So it's a great opportunity. Lifelong Learning Center is for adults. All right. Missoula Food Bank meal distribution. Hey, so they don't discriminate. You can go there, get some food. That's pretty much it. From 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday, Tuesday, Thursday. Wednesday and Friday is from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. And it is a great opportunity for people to get involved with some food if they're struggling or if they are not as well. So Recovery Through Writing, the Phoenix Missoula. So this is all a continuation of their group to promote writing and other activities rather than drug use. Narcotics Anonymous is a great start for people to kind of talk about some of their struggles, but this is a great way for people to write about them and encourage each other to stay on the straight and narrow. So that's what's happening at the Shack most mornings at 11 a.m., especially on Fridays. Families for a Livable Climate welcome call. So this is online. So want to learn more about Families for a Livable Climate is what they do. It's a nonprofit for a lot of people who gather around and discuss your interests and concerns in a supportive context and learn about volunteer opportunities such as joining the Northwestern Energy Accountability Team or other action teams and more. You can register online through MissoulaEvents.net. Hands-on Science, Cosmic Wonder, Spectrum Discovery here in the Missoula Public Library. Spectrum Discovery Center is on the second floor for guided science activities. Discovery Bench from 2 to 6 p.m. Tuesday through Saturday. This week's theme is Cosmic Wonders, no registration required, and it is free. It is here located at the library. Adobe Photoshop and Premiere Editing Pro at 3 and 4 p.m. Adult night at Hearts of Fire. It's a pottery, and it's going to be at 5 p.m. They have their regular adult night. Adult D&D at the Missoula Public Library. They usually do these online, but this is for D&D 18 and over. They also have a teen D&D, which they do on Saturdays from 6 to 8 p.m. as well as Friday from 6 to 8 p.m. tonight. Missoula Public Library is hosting this limited to 8 participants per session. These games are ongoing. If you're interested in joining, please contact Brian Doyle at bdoyle@missoula.lib.mt.us. I'll say that again, bdoyle@missoula.lib.mt.us. You can look this up on missoulaevents.net. It's that simple. Cheap date night. Missoula Public Library is doing a cheap date night. Library closes at 6, but then the late night movie starts, and the parking garage will be open, but you'll go up to the 4th floor. No late entry is allowed. So this is going to be kind of like a very small kind of grouping. And so this is the recent release of Jungle Cruise with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, and they're going to be showing it tonight at the Missoula Public Library. All right. Also, one of the big things that are happening this weekend, as well as the Big Sky Documentary Film Festival, is kicking off tonight at the Wilma. The Wilma and Big Sky Documentary Film Festival is a decent home on Friday, February 18th, as part of the 2022 Big Sky Documentary Film Festival. And I am running out of time. I would go through it with you to talk a little bit more about the Big Sky Documentary Film Festival, but I cannot just because my time is restrictive. So you can go to bigskyfilmfest.org for more information and all the listings. They're going to be at the Wilma, they're going to be at the Zootown Arts Community Center, they're going to be at the Roxy, and they're also going to be here at the library, and which they will be wrapping up their end of the week with their big pitch, which is 1 week from today, next Friday. And if you have a pitch that's good enough for a documentary, they'll give you some moolah and also some great advice along the way. Saturday, if you're interested, markets, Orchard Homes has their farmers market, Southgate Mall has their markets from 9 to about 1 p.m. It happens every week, and it'll happen well until end of March before they start doing the summer outdoor market here in downtown Missoula area. Hey, one of the things I always want to talk about is, home ownership. It's hard, it's difficult, but this home ownership class is a great opportunity for people to get deals, get hooked up, and have better ways to help afford their first home buy. So this is a select a lender, determine what you can afford, use your credit wisely, distinguish between difference between types of loans understood by home inspections, insurance, identify special financing programs, work with the real estate professional, evaluate the pros and cons of home ownership. This 9-hour class is on Saturday from 9 a.m. to about 6 p.m. This is HUD certified housing counselor and home buyer education. It's $35 per person. Most of the registration is already full, and so if you have any questions, you can call Kara at 532-4663. Again, that's 532-4663 with the extension number of 10. Also happening on, oh man, I'm coughing a lot. Don't deter that. It's just like it gets really dry, especially when I go to a different room. MCAT Tour and Training. If you're interested in being here at MCAT and wanting to check out any of our equipment for your own home production, MCAT has tour and trainings on Saturdays at 10 a.m. We also do one on Monday nights at 5:30 p.m. Beginners Bird Walk. So if you're interested in being a bird watcher, they're doing Lee Metcalf headquarters, which is off of in Stevensville. Join the bird walk every third Saturday of the month from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. to discover, identify, and reveal the aesthetics of Bitterroot Valley landscape. All are welcome. And so they will be going to the Refugee, which has recorded over 240 species of birds. So if you're a bird watcher and you want to get a good start, go on there. No special gear required, just dress for the weather and bring a water and a snack. Binoculars are always a good choice too, just think about it. Big Saturday Community Film Festival, like I said, they're going to be doing a couple films this weekend as well. Short blocks are the great entryway into documentaries because they're about 10 to about 35 minutes a pop, depending upon which one they are, but I suggest you check those out. Good way to get into documentaries before you go into those full hour-and-a-half, 2-hour documentaries. Deconstructing Frankenstein series. Missoula Public Library is doing a Frankenstein series at 5 p.m. in Missoula Public Library on Saturday. They're deconstructing Frankenstein. Just have a deeper dive into the ecology and the climate and just a lot of different things about the world behind Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. So I'm about done. I want to thank you guys for joining me. And for Wake Up Missoula, I'm Scott Ramf.